Hello, and thank you so much for joining me. My name is Jen Baldwin. I'm the research specialist at Findmypast, and I'm absolutely delighted to be a part of this unique and wonderful event all about that place. Really excited to be a part of the program, and it's a real honor to be able to talk with you today. I am excited because today I get to talk about one of my favorite types of records, which is the non-conformist records. I am going to use the example of Styal Village, which is just outside of Quarry Bank Mill, a National Trust site. This village I've been researching now for almost a year, and it really is an intricate tapestry of individuals and families that makes up this community. The research that we've done over the last year or so has been made so much simpler thanks to those nonconformist parish records that are available on Find My Past. This story, which is part of our larger partnership with the National Trust and an exhibit at Quarry Bank Mill, will really showcase the records and the history of what we now know today as a Unitarian parish. Samuel Gregg first identified the land for Quarry Bank Mill and dedicated that area to his site for that mill in 1784. And I wonder often, I really think about whether or not he anticipated what it would become. Today, we know Quarry Bank is the site of one of the best surviving examples of an operating cotton mill and a showcase of the Industrial Revolution. But it was also a home. It was home to hundreds of people, generation over generation, whether they were there by choice or they were there as children, indentured servants. It left this heavily integrated community behind, like an intricate quilt, and weaving those threads of cotton. Those stitches are placed very carefully one by one, but it led us to the thousands of descendants of the community that exists today. Quarry Bank, Style, and nearby Wilmslow all became part of this intricate tapestry of family because their story is really the hidden story of Quarry Bank. It's the story that hasn't yet really been told. And that's what Find My Past was so excited to do in partnership with the National Trust. Now, let's talk for just a second about that partnership. We have just launched this program, and it is very exciting. It really harnesses our extensive record collection and delves deeper into the places of the National Trust, places that are cared for and entrusted by that organization, but places that you and I love kind of all up and down the country. The partnership has launched with 10 different properties, really from north to south, from Wordsworth House down to Coteau Mill in Cornwall. And we're so excited to be telling these very personal stories of places, again, that many of us know and love already and have visited and seen, but now we get to go back and visit and see them again through a new lens, through a new way of storytelling, a new path to family history. So today we really are going to talk about Quarry Bank, which of course is just outside of Wilmslow. Mill owner Samuel Gregg really expanded the local village of Style in the 1790s. There was already a small population there, but he captured that and converted those barns and existing buildings, as well as building extra cottages, and created this model village, all to house his employees. This laid the basis for a deep-rooted community around Quarry Bank Mill, which was nurtured for over 140 years. Samuel and his wife Hannah were known Unitarians, and they had strong religious and social views, which are often credited with their rather paternalistic approach to employee management and the workers' welfare. Each family had a cottage built offering a parlor, a kitchen, two bedrooms, and a good sized vegetable garden. Over time, those workers drifted more towards the Baptist faith than the active Unitarian or Quaker denominations in the area. One of those families was the Sprousons, who have been in the area since at least 1771, when John Sprouson, the son of William and Anne, was baptized in Winslow. John's grandson, also named John, married in 1845 to a woman named Mary, almost 178 years ago now. And that marriage would result in yet another important generation. John, his father Joseph, and many, many other members of the Sprouson family were employed as weavers and other roles across the mill throughout their life. This early generation of Sprousons were members of the Anglican Church, but as we will see, that changes over time. Throughout their marriage, John and Mary lived and worked at Quarry Bank. In the 1851 census, we see them with their first two children, and both parents are power loom weavers. By 1871, the family has grown considerably and they've lived in the oak cottages throughout this period. John, however, has met with some misfortune as he's now listed in the census as incapable of work, minus one leg. By this time, they are baptizing their children in the Styal Presbyterian Church. Together, John and Mary had at least nine children: William, Joseph, John, Robert, Benjamin, Sarah Jane, Samuel, Mary Ann, and Charles. Unfortunately, Mary Ann died as a toddler, leaving Sarah Jane as the only surviving daughter with all those brothers. All of the other siblings, however, did live into adulthood, and John and Mary appear to be the generation that move again into that nonconformist church. While most of them go on to work in the mill and have a life in the style community, we're really going to focus on Sarah Jane today. Sarah Jane marries Alan Cooper in 1879, another prominent family of the area. And in 1921, they are living in the Oak Cottages, part of the Quarry Bank community in the Styal Village, where they have been for years. Nearly everyone in the household, except Sarah, is working at the mill. Let's go backward a little bit and dive into the family of Sarah Jane and Alan Cooper. Together, they had at least five children: Mary Ann, Alice, Esther, Arthur, and Edward. Esther and Arthur are actually twins. Now, you can see over the course of these generations that we're talking about big families, right? Five children is actually one of the smaller families that we found related to the Coopers and the Sprousons. Almost every generation had 8, 10, or even 12 children. All of the children except Marianne were baptized together at their home instead of in a parish church, which actually would have been one of the Oak Cottages, right? They're at the home of Alan Cooper. Also baptized that day were Alfred Sprowson and Ellen Worthington, who were cousins of the Cooper children. These records became essential to telling the story of the family. We ended up reading them page by page to ensure we had captured everything. We did find Sarah, baptized in 1888, who we believe died as an infant. This is not Thus is not a member of the family on census records and other typical sources. So it is important that we go through these registers with a fine tooth comb, right? Really looking at them in quite a lot of detail, making sure that we've captured everything. These baptisms, of course, are not a part of the Church of England, as I've mentioned, but rather a dissenting denomination. The minister performing these baptisms was a man named John Collins Odgers, who also served in Lancashire and other counties before coming to Cheshire. He alternated when he identified himself as a minister between Unitarian and Presbyterian during his more than 20 years of service across these communities. At the time, the prominent term would have been Presbyterian, but of course, we know the chapel today as Unitarian, and it has been Unitarian for quite some time. We can learn quite a lot if we chase down all the clues that are given to us, including things like the name of the minister. You can utilize the Global Christian Leaders Index on Findmypast for many of these individuals, both part of the Anglican Church and the dissenting denominations. It really allows you to give a better sense and a better idea of the story of your ancestors when you can understand all of the major influences in their life. And their ministers certainly would have been an important influence. So we turn to the very first image in the register and we note that Presbyterian is how it is registered, how it's labeled when they filled out the register at the time, right? And starting in 1863, they're identifying themselves as the Styal Presbyterian Chapel. So, why do we even question this? Mostly because, according to mainstream sources, if you just look online at places like Wikipedia, you'll see that the chapel is identified as Unitarian. But in fact, it has served both the Baptist and the Unitarian faith, as well as being identified as Presbyterian. So, we needed to be sure that we knew that we were placing the individual members of the Sprowson and the Cooper families in the right faith at the right time. As mentioned previously, many of the employees of the mill were Baptist, which differed from the Gregg family, another strong influence, of course, in their lives. So, in this instance, Presbyterian and Unitarian are essentially equivalent from a historical perspective, but it was really important that we understood that so that we could tell the right story about these particular families. On Find My Past, you can use the All Record Sets page, and we can see then an extensive collection of Cheshire materials available on the site. By narrowing that just slightly, we get the materials that are directly related to nonconformists and Roman Catholics. By using the all record sets, our version of a card catalog, we can truly ensure we've done a thorough examination of the available online records for this county. Now, nonconformist records can be extraordinarily beneficial, but there's a few things to remember as you're working through this type of material. Nonconformists, of course, do not belong to the established church. As of 1559, that meant anybody outside of the Anglican Church or the Church of England. It's also important to remember that while Catholics and Jewish are technically nonconformist, most records labeled as such apply to Baptists, Methodists, Presbyterians, Quakers, Moravians, and other denominations. You want to make sure that you're searching across all available record collections of all denominations, just in case. This includes the Catholic Heritage Archive on Findmypast, but also the non dissenting or nonconformist records. The reason being is because you may have families like the Sprousons who go back and forth. The Sprousons were at one point Church of England. They convert, they become Presbyterian slash Unitarian, and then by the 1921 census and World War II, they're back in the Church of England again. So it's important that you're checking all of the record sets to make sure you've captured all of the information. The National Archives has an outstanding research guide on the topic of nonconformists. Highly recommend that you read through that if this is something that you are new to, especially. If you have questions for Find My Past, we're always delighted to help you. You can reach us at support@findmypast.co.uk or by phone, of course, or the live chat on the screen when you're using the Find My Past site. Thank you once again for the opportunity to be with you and to be a part of this excellent program. I really hope you have enjoyed this quick lesson on nonconformists, and we look forward to seeing you on Find My Past very soon.